What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And we're also presented by Parasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Parasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Parasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. That is Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We got 2 guests again today, Marco D'Amico, who will come on. We'll talk about the Montreal Canadiens and their 7-5 loss last night. Lots of reports about Patrik Laine being on the move. LA seems to be the team that everyone is saying. We'll ask him about that or any other trades that Montreal might be in on. Maybe this Robert Thomas stuff now opens up for Montreal if Buffalo is going to pull out of it. And speaking of Buffalo, we'll bring on Marty Biron to talk about the Sabres and their win last night, what they are going to do for the deadline, because Darren Dreger also reported that Colton Parayko and Justin Faulk might be, or the Sabres might have interest in those two. So a lot to get to this morning, Colby, and a lot of great games last night. Where is your brain at right now?
Well, there were trades yesterday, by the way. They were a little more on the insignificant side. I was a little curious at why Billy Guerin in Minnesota went out and pulled the trigger so soon on Michael McCarron. Like, it almost makes me wonder if that takes them out of looking at some other things, just because like I feel like you would have needed that second round pick potentially as part of a package. And
well, Billy did say, Colby, Billy said last night, the second round pick does not help us right now. Like, that was his direct quote.
I am not saying that. What I'm saying here is that I feel like McCarron would have still been around in another day or two. Like, why not keep your irons in the fire? Like, I don't know. It just makes me wonder if there's actually nothing really else going on for Minnesota. Listen, I want Minnesota to win. I'm like all in on Minnesota this year, as I know you are now too. I mean, ever since Bill Guerin went out and had the balls to make that trade for Quinn Hughes, like, I'm so encouraged by that type of behavior for a general manager, because I just think it's so great for the sport and the game. So I just, that one was curious to me. That's all. I listen, there's obviously a reason they did it. They felt like they needed they had a need, and they went out and they found something that, they didn't really care too much about the cost on. And so, we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, if they are in on Vinny Trocheck, it's going to take a lot more than a second round pick. So it's not as if that second round pick, but if you're going to walk away from a couple of your first round picks, it is good to then still have second round picks. So I don't know. It gives me a little bit of pause, Jonny. That's all. In Bill, I trust. So there's a reason Bill Guerin did what he did, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt all day long on that. But I was just a little bit kind of, surprised, I guess I would say.
And the Wild looked good last night against Tampa. Big win on home ice. Quinn Hughes, great game again. Matt Boldy is one of those guys who's been playing well post-Olympics. He had another big game last night. And for the Wild, I think it's now been, pretty much reported by everyone that their final ask has been, or the Rangers, or I think it's Minnesota's final offer has been made, I guess, to the Rangers, and the Rangers are deciding which offer they feel is best for Trocheck. But like we've said on this show now for a couple of days, we've heard from the Minnesota side that the Rangers ask is too high. So maybe this McCarron thing does kind of offset or put the Vinny Trocheck stuff to bed. I don't know, but everyone seems to think that Minnesota is the number one team that Trocheck would be going to. So,
it's interesting because I saw yesterday people were saying it's a buyer's market because there's a lot available, but then we're also seeing all these reports where the prices are too high and people are bailing out. I mean, the reports yesterday were that, Buffalo went almost the distance on Robert Thomas, but at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. And then he pivoted and said, now they're pivoting and they're looking more towards Faulk and potentially Colton Parayko. Listen, I would be so shocked if they moved on from Colton Parayko, man. Faulk, I could understand with his contract situation, but Colton Parayko's, those guys they're hard to come by. I mean, if you think about the National Hockey League, how many guys are there really like him? I just feel like the days of that big, mean, heavy I think he's a right shot.
He's a right shot. Yeah, right shot.
Big, mean, heavy right shot who skates, who defends, and then also has offensive capabilities and can hammer it. Like, he's kind of a throwback type of player. He's obviously not in the Chris Pronger realm or conversation, but you just used to have more of those guys back in the day, guys who were those big, mean defenders. And Colton Parayko is kind of like a modern day version of those types of players from, the 90s and even the early 00s. And I don't know. I'd be surprised to see him go, although I'm sure he could bring you back, a nice return.
Well, what I will say is for Buffalo, like, they need more right-handed shot defensemen. They have Owen Power playing the right side, I believe. So I think Owen Power would probably be the guy, or maybe like a Bowen Byram in return for Parayko. And Parayko's got I think 4 years left on his deal. Power also has 4 years left on his deal. So if they could swap a 32-year-old for a 23-year-old, like, St. Louis's back end is old. I think most of those guys are north of 30. So like, that would make sense for me for the Blues to move on from Parayko to get a guy like Owen Power to make them a little younger. And Buffalo, I think, isn't trying to get any younger. They're already as young as it is. I think they need like more veteran guys and guys who have won something on their team if they're making a push for the playoffs. Like, I think it kind of makes sense for both sides if the Sabres want to go for Parayko to give up Owen Power in return, just with the way the contracts work out.
Would you rather have Power or Byram?
I'd rather Byram.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather Byram. I think he's a better skater. I think his offensive upside's better. Probably not as physical, but Owen Power, I think, has been pretty inconsistent for the most part of his career so far. I know it's still early. He's young, but I think I don't know.
He's only 23.
I think, yeah, I know. But Byram's young too. How old's Byram? Byram's 24.
24.
He's a year older. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Byram's only got 1 year left on his deal. I don't know how much he'd cost. I don't know how Sabres
Byram makes 6.25 and Power makes 8.35, and Power is obviously under contract for 6 more years. Byram 1 after this.
I don't know. I'd be curious to hear how Sabres fans feel about that, if they're more attached to Byram or to Power. But from the games that I've watched, I think Byram is more effective than Power. You?
They're very different players, and I feel like Power has that number 1 pick next to his name, and I think that puts certain expectations, like offensive expectations, on him, and that's really just not who he is. Different type of number 1 overall pick. Listen, they're not all Macklin Celebrini. You know what I mean? They're not all Connor Bedard. So, look, let's channel some of the Buffalo talk for Marty Biron.
Well,
it's my fault, but
you're good.
You're good. I went down this road, but I do think we should save some of this conversation for Marty Biron.
I wanted to answer Joe Albany's, though. He just wrote in our chat telling me that St. Louis's blue line isn't old. I mean, who are their best defensemen? Their top defensemen are Parayko, 32, Faulk, 33, Fowler, 34. Like, these aren't young guys.
No,
like, those are their top D. Like, they're not a young blue line.
No,
and they had Torrey Krug before, who was 34.
Mayu is 22. Kessel's 25.
But the top guys are old.
That's obviously not good enough either. I mean, those guys aren't good enough. Look where the St. Louis Blues are. I mean, Matthew Kessel, a guy we both liked in college, but he's at his moments. But he's 25, so he's still on the youthful, end of things. Broberg, I'd say, would be the one young bright spot of that core. But I agree with you, Johnny. I completely agree with you on that.
Can we sidetrack for 1 second, actually? To be honest, I have not watched the Blackhawks game since they've returned, so I don't know how he's looked. But I'm pretty sure I saw Chief tweeting that Blackhawks fans are starting to turn on Levshunov. And we have a comment in the chat. Simach Hockey Training said, "I love evaluating D, and I also hate Levshunov on the Hawks," which I've never said. I just didn't think he was this unbelievable offensive defenseman. But have you seen that? Or have you watched those games?
I mean, I watched a little bit. Was it the first game back I saw a little bit of? But no, I mean, I have not been that dialed on the Chicago Blackhawks. There's not, where they are in the standings right now. You're kind of keeping your eye on teams that are fighting for playoff hopes, and teams that maybe came back from the break, like Vegas, not playing all that well, and looking at some of those teams a little bit. So we'll see. Like, it could be a lot of hot air right now. I mean, it's so far seemingly like that. I saw a comment in the chat, and Montreal has widely been looking for a center. And I mean, there's a connection between Jeff Gorton, who's the big boss in Montreal, or him and Quinn Hughes together, and the New York Rangers brass. Gortz didn't sign Vinny to that contract, did he? Was that a Drury signing?
No, that's Drury. That's Drury.
That was a Drury signing?
It was
okay.
The summer, it was going into the 22-23 season. But they signed him instead of Ryan Strome. It was either him or Strome.
Do you think? Well, I mean, that's a no-brainer. But do you think Vinny's request to stay on the East Coast? Like, do you think he'd be happy to go play in Montreal? I mean, that would be sick to play in Montreal. 100%. I mean, I could see a guy maybe not wanting to go to Toronto. I could see that. But
he also said he wants to go somewhere that's ready to win. He doesn't want to go somewhere that's in the same position as the Rangers. Like, that'd be miserable, he said.
Yeah. So, I mean, Montreal's not in that position. A team that's on the cusp. They're up and coming. They've got a lot of exciting talent to play with. They're looking for a center. They've been very open about looking for a center. So you also started this conversation off, and you were talking about Laine potentially in LA.
Yeah. Marco's here if you want to bring him in too.
Didn't Dennis Bernstein sort of put that to bed? Didn't he kind of say that that's not? I don't remember the exact term he used, but he wasn't too keen on that. He didn't feel like that's what.
Yeah, but that was. Did we have Dennis on Monday or was that Friday?
No, I think that was Monday.
That was Monday. Every day is kind of blending together. Yeah. But then yesterday I saw Pagnotta was tweeting that LA was the team
hovering
in front
around them. They were hovering on it.
Yeah, he loves the word hovering. But let's bring on our friend Marco D'Amico. Before we do, just a quick word from our sponsor, JP Weisers. No matter where your team sits this season, watching the game with your crew makes everything better. The wins feel bigger and the rivalries hit harder. As the official whiskey of the NHL, JP Weisers is all about those moments that matter from October through June. The rituals, the midweek matchups, the regional rivalries that bring friends together, because when you get the crew together for a game night, that's a W. This season, fans can look forward to limited edition products and plenty more from JP Weisers. So to stay up to date, visit jpweisers.com and subscribe to the JP Weisers newsletter for the latest on limited edition drops, products, and more. You must be legal drinking age, so please enjoy responsibly. With that, let's bring on recurring guest, friend of the show, Marco D'Amico. Marco, tough loss last night. 7-5, ugly game. Seemed like Montreal was in control, and all of a sudden San Jose scores 3 straight goals in the second, I think, to take a 4-2 lead. Was it 3 straight?
Exactly.
Not sure if you heard us talking about Patrik Laine. I assume you have more information than the two of us would on that. Is LA seeming to be the front runner still with Laine? What have you heard out of Montreal in regards to him?
Yeah, well, you brought up Dennis and his reporting, right? And I was pretty adamant on the same thing. Laine was not a priority for the LA Kings a week and a half ago, even as early as the beginning of this week. But you look at the market, the prices are insane.
Yeah, and the injuries they've had, right?
Yeah, and I think, and as Dennis pointed out yesterday, and I wholeheartedly agree, the injuries to Fowler and Kuzmenko changed this dynamic entirely. Like, the LA Kings do not have that much to go to auction with. So when you have a Patrik Laine who could be retained on, so $4.3 million, they have the cap space to take that on, or it wouldn't require a premium asset to get him, if at all, to get him. It's those kinds of like last minute trade deadline moves that I could definitely see LA circling back on. And that's what I've said from the very beginning. Circle back candidate is the LA Kings on the Patrik Laine situation.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, we were talking a little bit about Vinny Trocheck, thinking he could be a good fit for Montreal, thinking they definitely have assets. They have prospects. Like, there's familiarity between the two management staffs. I think we all know that. We don't know whether it's good familiarity or bad familiarity, like what the taste in everybody's mouth is right now. But then after the game last night, you're sitting here and you're like, if the Montreal Canadiens want to be a serious hockey team, they need to address the position in the blue paint more than anything. I mean, it just seems like this team's hopes of taking that next step are going to stall until they address the goaltending position.
Yes and no. I think it depends the way you look at it. The amount of high danger chances against is abnormal for the Montreal Canadiens. Like if you watch that game yesterday, you know, a lot of like Misa's goal where Jaden Struble and Alex Carrier were kind of dancing around the blue paint looking for the puck and it squeaks out to Misa who scores. Like that can't happen, right? And on the other end, you had Askarov who was standing on his head for most of the game and he still lit in 5 goals. So sometimes you can have the best goalie in the world if the defense is giving up 10 to 15 high danger chances a game. That's not conducive to the playoffs. So if you're Montreal, I kind of understand why they would be looking to maybe revamp their bottom pair as opposed to trying to find a solution in net, because what's the alternative? Without being disrespectful, everybody's pointing to Jordan Binnington, but Jordan Binnington has an .860 save percentage and is playing behind, analytically and statistically, a more structured defensive core than Montreal right now, right? Like St. Louis's problem is not allowing goals or playing defense, it's scoring goals. And so I'm not necessarily of the mind that bringing in another goalie is necessarily going to fix things. I think it would open up the Canadiens to a Tristan Jarry, Stuart Skinner mistake like the Edmonton Oilers did, because I feel like if the Edmonton Oilers had a Connor Murphy all season, Stuart Skinner probably would have looked better in Edmonton, like he looks better right now in Pittsburgh.
I'm curious as far as prospects go, Marco. Like, you know, if Montreal does want to make a big splash, everyone's going to look at Michael Hage, right? Is he an untouchable though for you? He must be. He's unbelievable.
No one's an untouchable for me. I learned that a long time ago. What I would say though is it always depends the opportunity, right? Like trading Ryan McDonough for Scott Gomez was not the play. Worked out for the Rangers, but it did not work out for the Canadiens. Trading Mikhail Sergachev for Jonathan Drouin was not the play. It worked out for Tampa Bay and is now working out for Utah, but it was not the play for Montreal. This is where you have to be very careful about trading your top prospects. And I think that's the reason why the Montreal Canadiens aren't in a rush to move Michael Hage. And if they were agreeable to moving Michael Hage, I think Robert Thomas would already be a Montreal Canadian. But there's a lot that kind of goes into that. And I can understand Montreal. There is a world where Michael Hage can be as impactful a player as Robert Thomas if he develops the way that they think he can develop. And I think that's something you have to really stop and think. My 2 cents, I think there are questions as to whether or not Michael Hage will be a center at the NHL. I think there are questions as to, you know, how much of a dual threat he'll be. I think he has a wicked shot, but there are habits that need to be fixed there. So he's still a prospect. There's still unknowns. But when you want to trade a player like that, you have to do it and you have to be sure what you're doing. And I think, especially with you look at the center market and you look at the way that teams are going to basically address themselves for some of these players. You guys just finished talking about Trocheck before. I just got to think that they're going to be cautious about this, because this is the part of a rebuild where things can go awry. Like this is the crux.
We're not still saying rebuild, are we? For Montreal?
Well, they're on the tail end of their rebuild. Yeah, I mean, you look
rebuild,
at the timeline. Yeah,
what's the goal of a rebuild?
To win a cup
contender.
Yeah, to compete for a cup. Yeah,
but I'd say they're
Johnny. Let me just put it to you this way:
they made the playoffs
in my opinion,
playoff spot all year this year.
In my opinion, they look like the Rangers looked when the Rangers decided, you know what? We're going to speed this up a little bit and we're going to sign Panarin and we're going to do this and that. And then all of a sudden, look where they're at right now. And that was Jeff Gorton. That was Gort.
I couldn't disagree more.
Gortz did it again. Gortz did it again this summer when we went to get Dobson. So
the younger talent on this Canadiens team is so much better than the younger talent that the Rangers had. The Rangers had, they had Adam Fox who won a Norris. Montreal has Lane Hudson, Cole Caulfield, who's now a leader in goals.
They also picked number 1 and number 2, and they expected them to be good players, not complete busts. I mean, that really derailed the Rangers' plans. That those two guys ended up flops.
Still had a premium power forward in Chris Kreider. Still had
and let me just say this:
Kreider wasn't a premium power forward.
But hold on, Johnny.
He turned into a 50 goals.
Remember something:
Lane
Hudson is a second round pick. Okay,
round pick.
You know, like these guys weren't. So I would side here with Marco more. Like this kind of is reminding me now that he brought this up of more the area where where the Rangers like hit fast forward a little bit, and in my opinion has led them to 2 years of great success and now right back to the shit, the absolute shitstorm that they're in. But I will say this, Marco, like to me, Johnny's point is very valid. The young talent, and here's where I'll push back on the Dobson thing. How old is Noah Dobson? I mean, Noah Dobson
he's like 26, right?
26 years old and is looking like a premier right shot top pair defenseman in the National Hockey League. So I am a believer that those types of players do not grow on trees. And when you have the ability to lock a young one up, it's okay to take a little bit of a risk there. Like I think the risk reward way outweighs than some of the moves that the New York Rangers made in a similar time period.
No, I agree, Colby. And I just wouldn't go so far as to say you don't trade a defenseman like Noah Dobson, because then Islanders fans are going to Photoshop Johnny in an Islanders jersey again. Yeah. So we don't need that.
Yeah, but also agree.
And it's opportunity. We had the goalie. When does the player become available?
Though. We had the goalie. Like you have the goalie, it makes you look way better. The Rangers were never a good team in front of Shesterkin on those runs. Like Shesterkin is the one who got him there. Like Montreal has the opposite problem. They've got all the talent in front, and it's so I don't know if it's the same.
Well, I think it's because the core is disjointed from where that goalie is. That goalie is Jacob Fowler, but he's a rookie in the American Hockey League. When he's ready, I think that's a different story. But in the meantime, if you're the Montreal Canadiens, there are areas you need to shore up. Definitely 2C is one of them. I think right shot defense is still up in the air, and those are the two areas they're looking at right now.
But staying with this conversation a little bit, like I'm calling it like the end of a rebuild, because Montreal, like outside of Tampa and Carolina this year, like they're right there for the third spot in Eastern Conference. Like, no, I mean, who is the third best team in the East right now? We can all say Buffalo, but
it's Buffalo.
But are the Montreal Canadiens afraid of Buffalo? Like, are you afraid of that?
I think everyone should be afraid of Buffalo right now.
Anybody. Buffalo is a trap team to play in the playoffs this year.
But Buffalo is also it's mostly goaltending. Like a lot of it has been goaltending. UPL and
one of the best goal scorers in the league as well, right?
So does Montreal.
Absolutely. I'm not saying Montreal versus Buffalo is the problem. I'm saying, like, if you're Tampa, that's a trap team to play. If you're Boston, that's a trap team to play. If they're in the wild card spot, I feel like they would, no offense, Carolina Hurricanes fans, but I think that they would have a fun time against the Hurricanes. So, like, Buffalo is definitely a team to watch. Where you're Montreal, you look around the Atlantic, it's not just this season. This season is a trend of what's to come. And the Canadiens are trending quite nicely. One of the top scoring teams in the NHL. What they need is to find ways to stop getting scored on. And that comes from defensive structure. Like, I don't know if a man-to-man game and the speed of today's NHL is the way to work defensively, but I'm not the coach, right? So these are some of the elements. But also maybe it's the defenseman that you have there, right? Can the Canadiens upgrade on a Jaden Struble and Herbert Jacka and Alex Carrier on the bottom pair to be harder to play against? Because that's really, where you go. I bring this back to the Rangers, unfortunately, but like,
stop it.
What happened? They became harder to play against when you had Jacob Trouba in the lineup, right? That acquisition changed the dynamic from being, more of a two-way kind of defensive situation to being something much more, abrupt and physical. And I kind of see the same thing with Anaheim nowadays, where they had the Pavel Mintyukovs, they had the Olin Zellwegers, but by adding Trouba, by adding Gudas, now they're a physical back end. That's exactly the transition I feel Montreal needs to do.
That's the worry, is like, how are some of these smaller, lighter, inexperienced players going to fare in the playoffs for Montreal? Like, do they need a little more heaviness? Do they need a little bit more sandpaper? And I think we know the answer is yes. And that kind of leads me into a player that I want to ask you about. I do watch Montreal more this year than I have in I don't know how long. Marco, like, they play with such pace and puck possession that they really are an enjoyable team to watch, especially for someone who has no rooting interest, because the defensive struggles don't bother me. And I love watching Laine. I think Laine is just one guy that is worth buying a ticket to go see. But they did make that trade for Phil Deneau. They brought him back to Montreal, a place where they felt like they could get him back to his game. Look, the numbers are better as far as like his offensive output. He's got like 10 points since he joined the team. In the previous, year, I think he had all of 5 goals or something like that. So obviously the offensive numbers are better, but I think Danault's, he does, like, his impact is not always on the score sheet, right? And for you, who's watching this team every single night, how is that move shaking out and working? Like, do you feel like that helped sort of plug a little bit of a hole, or are you still kind of wishy-washy down the middle, throughout the lineup?
Well, I think Phil Danault offers 2 things: a left shot center on a team full of right shots, and the ability to win a grand majority of those faceoffs. I think he was somewhere close to 60% before the break in the faceoff circle for the Canadiens after the trade. That's massive, and it's come in handy. He had, I think there's at least 5 either game-winning or tying goals that have come off his winning draws. So that right off the bat, like, it's maybe not a big enough deal in the regular season, but when you have set plays in the playoffs and you see how goals are scored, heck, just look at Team USA at the Olympics. Yeah. How many set plays that they have off face-off wins?
Good call.
It's huge, right? So when the games are tight, those are the difference makers. And so, with him, I don't necessarily know if they're optimizing him from an offensive perspective, playing him with Brendan Gallagher and Josh Anderson. I think that you could easily have him with a new hook and Kirby Dach down the line, and it would be probably better for his offensive output. But defensively, and at least in the faceoff circle, he has already made a difference. You'd like to see more consistency from the veterans, a little bit more assertiveness, but definitely in terms of those elements, he's helped them a great deal. Now it's more a question of how do you better create that cohesiveness with that team. And so that's going to be a problem for Martin St. Louis to figure out in terms of the elements that he has, and then potentially Kent Hughes if he goes and gets any more depth before Friday.
Marco, I just got one more for you because we got Marty Biron here waiting. But I think the last time we had you on, you were pumping the Demidov for the Calder Trophy after watching that Canadiens Islanders game.
Did.
I don't know. I think you were.
I've been on the Schaefer train since like week 2.
I was going to ask you if that game settled it with Schaefer.
No,
over Demidov.
Absolutely not. That didn't settle it for me at all. I think it was settled sometime in November or October. For me.
Okay. So it is Schaefer.
The reason why Lane Hutson, in my opinion, unquestionably won last year is because he did something historic. Really historic. Well, the same applies to Matthew Schaefer. I mean, at 18, having played 17 games last year, coming in
crazy.
Like, we shouldn't. I don't mean to be like eccentric, but he should. It's not even a question of the Calder. Should he have Hart consideration? Is my question.
We had that conversation on.
Think about how he's revolutionized that team, their transition, their offense, their ability to defend off the rush. He does it all, and he does it all playing 25 minutes a game. Like, this is elite. We didn't even see this from Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes at the same age. And that to me is absolutely bonkers, because those 2 players had better supporting casts, in my opinion, than Matthew Schaefer does right now with respect to the Islanders.
And let me just point out this. Lane Hutson was Rookie of the Year last year, and Macklin Celebrini very well may win the Hart this year. You know what I mean? Yeah. They can both be – Ivan Demidov can still turn into a Hart candidate, rock star. You know what I mean? It just it's just timing of these types of things, and what guy gets on a run and a roll a little bit more. So I just think that both of those guys can be unbelievable. But you're right. What Schaefer has done is it's every bit as historical as what Lane Hutson did at an even younger age. And that is the crazy part. We were talking about Makar, 2 years of college, Quinn Hughes, 2 years of college, like Lane Hutson, 2 years of college. Schaefer played, like you just said, 17 games of junior hockey last year. I mean, this is the most insane thing we've seen in maybe up until we're seeing what 19-year-old Macklin Celebrini is doing right now, which is also out of this world. But these are special talents. They're all fun to watch. And listen, the Montreal Canadiens are going to have to do some dancing here if they want to make their team better, because their cap situation is not great at the moment. But they've hit on a lot of good picks and a lot of good players, and I think they want to take the next step. I've heard rumblings that they're unsure if the man behind the bench is the coach to take them the next step. I have heard that. I'm not saying there's any heat on him or I have any inside information, just kind of some rumblings that their questions, is he the guy to take them to the next step? And that's something that we're going to see. I hope it is, because I love Marty St. Louis. I love the guy. I hope it is. I hope he gets this team over the hump and the Montreal Canadiens have a nice long playoff run here the next couple of seasons. That's my hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, with the Calder, I'll just say this. Alex Ovechkin won the Calder in 05-06 over Sidney Crosby. I don't think it impacted either of their generational careers.
Yep. So no, definitely not.
Okay with that. And in terms of Marty St. Louis, I heard he has the entire full backing of the Canadiens management team. So we'll definitely see if maybe they add to his staff.
Yeah,
but
he should.
I think they firmly believe that he can grow with this team as a coach as well.
Marco, thank you so much for the time this morning. We always love checking in with you about those Canadiens. So I'm sure we will check back in depending on the moves they make on Friday. We'll probably hear from you maybe next week or the week after. But thank you so much for doing this. We always appreciate your time, and talk to you soon, all right?
Sounds like a plan, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Awesome stuff from Marco D'Amico. We do have Marty Biron joining here in a second. Just want to give Vic a little second to set him up, make sure he's all good. The Buffalo Sabres, again, continue to roll. Last night, Colby, that pregame ceremony with Tage Thompson, Jack Eichel, Noah Hannafin. They did it the right way, the exact way we thought, right? They cheer him, and then as soon as the game starts, they boo him.
Alex and I were watching that game, and she's like, are they booing Jack every time he touches the puck? Like, she happens to know Jack. We spent a lot of time with him and his girlfriend, now wife, in Hawaii one summer, and so she got to know him and his wife. So she likes to follow him, and she's like, why are they booing him? And I was like, there's a whole story here, but we're not going to get into it. But that was great. Well done, Buffalo. Well done.
Yeah. Let's bring Marty in. We'll ask him about that game. Best game in Buffalo in the last 15 years or what, Marty?
I don't know. Individually, it was a very fun pregame ceremony. The game itself, the Sabres go up 3-0, and then all of a sudden it became very nervous around the building when Vegas scored 2 in a minute and a half, and they hung on. But it was a loud pregame ceremony. It was absolutely what you want from the fans, and to celebrate the gold medal. But then it's about the villain. Jack Eichel's a villain, and it's great. I
love it.
He was Tage Thompson's roommate at the Olympics, and I think everybody enjoyed that. But he's a villain now, and you get to have fun with it.
Yeah, I literally handled so perfectly by the fans in Buffalo, and the energy in that building right now, Marty, like when I was calling games for the Blackhawks about 2-3 years ago, we'd come in there and it was so sleepy. And now I'm sitting at home, I'm watching the Buffalo Sabres, and the energy is this market needs playoff hockey, and I hope a long run of playoff hockey. And do you think, based on the energy, based on the wins, based on the new general manager who took over, are they going to make some sort of grand slam level swing here at the deadline, or is it mostly just smoke?
I don't think that there is a need really to go and make that big of a splash. Like, I know everybody was talking about Robert Thomas the last 24 hours, and I get that. Robert Thomas, if available, you make a phone call, you check that. But where would he fit on the Sabres? If healthy, you've got Thompson, McLeod, Norris in the middle of the ice. And I get it. If you had one of those guys potentially out or injured or something, then you inquire. Norris has been a big factor for the Sabres when healthy. And obviously there's always that question mark, but right now he's fully healthy. There's no need to say, we're thinking if he's not healthy. No, that's not happening. McLeod and Zucker and Quinn, that line has played the most minutes together of any lines with the Sabres this year. That's not going anywhere. So I just don't see the fit if you're going to have, Robert Thomas there. Now, if you were to talk about Jordan Kyrou, I can maybe see a fit because Jordan Kyrou is a winger. Jordan Kyrou could play top line wing with Thompson and Tuch. And if Tuch doesn't stay with the Sabres long term, maybe Jordan Kyrou would be that replacement for an Alex Tuch. I don't know what Tuch and the Sabres, what that's gonna mean past July 1 next year. But I think that Alex Tuch is on this team for this run. So again, like, I just don't see and Jordan Greenway is probably going to come back to play. Justin Danforth is probably going to be there. Like, he broke his kneecap early in the season and has been out since then. You've got Josh Dunn, who's still on the side. You can go and bring back Constantine, who's from Rochester. You've got a lot of players. If you're going to make moves, that's going to mean a lot of players that are there right now would be on the way out.
Mm-hmm. Marty, I feel like with these teams in the East, everyone has this mentality of like, we have to be buyers. The East is wide open. We have to. Does Buffalo have to? They're 21-5-2 since December 20th. Like, do they have to do something to make changes? Why not just roll with what they've got? They've been the best team in the NHL for almost 3 months.
So if it was me, I would look at depth. I think the depth up front is there. You've got players like Peyton Krebs can play top line minutes with Thompson and Tuch, but really at some point I would anticipate Zach Benson to maybe get that chance, or somebody else, and then maybe Krebs but you've got depth. You got players that can move in and out of different situations. That's great. On defense, I do believe depth on defense would be something nice to add. As solid as it comes. Darlene Samuelson, Byram, Power. You've got size, you got offense, you've got guys that can play power play, guys that can play penalty kill. And then your third pair right now is Zach Metsa, Michael Kesselring. Kesselring, I really like the guy, and I like the player. He's just had a very weird season where he was not 100% in training camp. He's been injured multiple times. But eventually, could he play top 4 with the Sabres? Yeah, he could. Right now, he's a third pair guy, and if he gets hurt, you may need to add, something to have the depth. Connor Timmins is going to come back as well, so that may be the depth that you're looking for. On defense, but I would add a depth defenseman just to make sure. Like, you guys are all young. So, 20 years ago, 05, 06, and we celebrated that team this year with the Sabres. We ended up in the conference finals, and we lost like 4 or 5 defensemen. And it was like, it sank us. I'm not saying like that's an extreme situation, but you never have enough depth on the blue line when you want to make a run in the playoffs, and I think the Sabres may do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there a name that comes to mind? And Neil, I see your comment in the chat, Neil, about McCarthy or Sturback from college. Like, I love Gavin McCarthy. I watch him play quite often, but he's not ready for the National Hockey League or the National Hockey League playoffs. I mean, that no. I can tell you that for sure. So I don't think that's the depth that Marty's talking about, but is there a name? I mean, Darren Dreger tweeted today, and these are more than depth guys, but he said that Buffalo and St. Louis have engaged in some conversations about both Colton Parayko and Justin Faulk. I mean, yeah. We on this show, we're huge Colton Parayko fans. We feel like he's a throwback old school guy, but I got to think, to get Colton Parayko, like, you're giving up a massive ransom for Colton Parayko.
I think if you're acquiring Colton Parayko or even Justin Faulk, you're probably moving one of your, middle pair defenseman guy. And right now that's Byram and Power. And I just don't see that happening. Yeah. Bo Byram re-signed with the team. He's been fantastic. Owen Power's played some great hockey this year, despite the criticism that he's taken over the last few years as a number 1 overall pick. I just don't see the need again to bring in a big, an elevated defenseman in your group. So, and you mentioned the depth on defense. You mentioned Sturback and McCarthy, and they got Radim Murtka, was their first round pick last year. out of the Western Hockey League. They've got some really nice younger pieces in Rochester. That's not the depth that is ready for the NHL. But that could be the type of depth that you could move if you wanted to make a deal, because like Dahlian's not going anywhere. Power's not going anywhere. Byram, I don't think is going to go anywhere. Samuelson, like you've got your top four set for a long time. So you can move some prospects, some high-end prospects, if you felt the need to do so.
Marty, I got to ask you, since you're the goalie guy, and speaking of those prospects, like Devon Levi right now, he's got to be feeling stuck, right? Because Laine and UPL have been playing some unreal hockey over the last couple months. I mean, the tandem between the two of them, it seems like they've been splitting the net for the most part, right? I'm looking at the numbers a little bit. 13 starts for UPL and 11 starts for Laine in the last 2-3 months, and both 9.23 save percentage for UPL, 9.32 for Laine, like insane numbers. But I guess as you go into the playoffs, are you splitting the net still? Like, it doesn't seem like they want to give it to one guy.
Well, since the return of the Olympic, Luukkonen got the New Jersey game, Laine got the Florida, Luukkonen got Tampa, Laine got last night Vegas. I would continue the rotation. It's worked for both guys. This is a unique situation. They've had 3 goalies all season long with Colton Ellis. There was always an injury to somebody. Laine got banged up. UPL got hurt. Ellis got a concussion. It was like there was always, and they've worked it out pretty well. I don't like 3 goalies. I've had it a few times in my career. If all 3 are healthy, you have to handle it like you have 2 goalies, and the third guy, unfortunately, is almost becoming a practice guy. Now, the Sabres, what they've done, and again, it's uncharacteristic, but it has worked. Like last night, Colton Ellis is the backup to Alex Laine. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is in the press box or in the gym and, getting stronger, getting ready for Thursday night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And probably Colton Ellis is going to back up Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen tomorrow night in Pittsburgh, which allows Alex Laine to, get on the ice, practice a little bit more, not have to worry about that game, and then get ready for Saturday against Nashville and so on and so on. So they've done that, which, again, as a former goalie, I'm like, I don't love that. If I'm not playing, I want to be in the room. I want to be in the meetings. I want to be on the bench. But it's a new generation. It's a new way of maybe trying to find an edge, and it has worked for them. So it will be interesting. I think they'll keep all 3 just because it has worked for them. And yeah, you mentioned Devon Levi. Well, he's learning. He's developing still. He just had a quote maybe a couple of weeks back saying how he really he didn't realize how much he needed that year in Rochester, and now he's really fully embracing it. Now, the one thing is next year, Devon Levi is not waivers exempt, right? He's going to have to be put on waivers if his path was to go to the AHL again, just like Colton Ellis was picked up on waivers this year by the Sabres. So I don't know if maybe it's more of an off-season conversation, but I don't think anything is happening in the crease. And I think they'll probably kept all 3 goalies for the rest of the season because it seems to be working for them.
Yeah, listen, I think everything Buffalo's doing is working for them right now. Never seen a GM change, put so much excitement into a lineup to have a turnaround like this. I remember not long ago, people were calling for Lindy's head, and now he should be talked about as the front runner for Coach of the Year in the National Hockey League. So, Marty, we're grateful you're on TV last night. You get up with us here this morning. You're a hardworking man, and then that's probably why you were such a damn good goaltender in the National Hockey League. So we appreciate your time.
I work a lot harder at this job than I did when I played. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, we love that. We love that. All right, Marty, have a great rest of your day, and we'll look forward to the Buffalo Sabres being a playoff team this year, pal.
Thanks,
awesome.
Marty.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the day. Enjoy the deadline.
All right.
We will. Appreciate you.
That guy, he has such good energy, man.
Always.
I bet you he was a competitive SOB, man. Like that type of energy, that position. I got to tell you, he probably would have been a really fun guy to play in front of and have around, because he's probably held guys accountable. but his
100%.
energy and his enthusiasm is tremendous. So good job getting him. Oh, was that you, Johnny? Yeah, you were the one who texted him last night, right? To get him to commit to the show. So good job by you securing the guest. And Marco is great too. I mean, listen, you see what our numbers look like today, Johnny. Like, this is anytime we talk about the Montreal Canadiens, a lot of people want to hear, and we're finally seeing the true dedication of this Buffalo Sabres market. I mean, the building, the Olympic thing where they showed the numbers of every market, Buffalo was number one in that. I know I brought this up, I think yesterday, the day before, but these are markets that just are all in, man. And look, I did not think we'd be sitting here having these Buffalo Sabre conversations this year. I thought
it's not like they've done anything.
No, they just fired the general
craziest
manager.
Part. Yeah, that's the craziest part to me. And I remember, I remember talking to Zach Benson. I think I've said this a few times, but I asked Zach Benson, when they were on their 10-game winning streak, I was like, what's changed? And he was like, honestly, nothing. We just won 4 in a row and we just started believing. And then we won 10 in a row and we were like, we're never going to lose again. And that's all it takes. It just takes one good stretch and then you start believing and then you go into every game thinking you're going to win. And there aren't that many teams that have that, right? There's probably 5 or 6 teams in the NHL right now who truly go into the game every night thinking they're going to win.
Yeah, everybody says it, but how many truly think it? Yeah,
it's a powerful thing.
Well, that, and when you're down and you're going to come back, whether you do or don't, it's irrelevant. But you just know you're going to come back in a game. That's also another massive factor. So, Johnny, I know there was one other. Go ahead.
Well, I was just to finish off Buffalo. I will say, I texted Hage last night just to congratulate him again on the big night and everything, and how awesome it was that they did that for him. The towels, him, being such a good Buffalo Sabre, over the past few years, and finally now seeing success. And he was just like, "What a night, dude! What a night!" It's awesome just to see the appreciation that Hage is getting because, I think when he was first initially traded there, and Ryan O'Reilly goes on to win a cup and win the Conn Smythe, there was a lot of pressure on him. Things didn't click right away, and then he exploded, right? And now he's become this superstar in Buffalo, and it's great to see. And I wanted to, I guess, express that he was just so appreciative of what the Sabres fans did for him last night. I know he said that in his postgame and whatnot, but wanted to reiterate that on the show. Yes, Macklin Celebrini time. We were watching that game last night. Vic was texting us, every shift Macklin was out there. Oh my God, he's the best player in the league. And there's just one clip going viral of Macklin last night where he doesn't even necessarily get anything done, but his work ethic and his motor and his ability to just find ways to get open. No, but there's maybe one scoring chance from this shift.
Well, but look at all the pressure he puts on the puck, and look at how many times that his stick position and pressure and his motor creates turnovers. I mean,
that's what I was saying.
The way he reads a game, and his ability to process things at the speed of his feet and his hands, he's man. I mean, he is. Remember when I was talking about how Jack Eichel was potentially the most complete player in the NHL, 200-foot player? I mean, I'm starting to need to walk that back for Macklin. I mean, obviously there's still Connor McDavid, but the Olympics were anything, showed anyone and everything that he is just on the same level as the big, the big five. I mean, is that kind of where the NHL's at right now with the big five, Johnny, when you have McDavid, McKinnon, Celebrini, Makar, and Hughes? Is that the big five?
Hughes?
Quinn Hughes?
Quinn, yeah.
Is that the big five?
How do you leave out Kucherov again?
Kucherov would probably, so maybe it's the big six. And then
Quinn belongs there. Quinn belongs there.
So when you're doing these types of things, you have to shut it off somewhere. But I agree, leaving Kucherov out.
You can't leave Kucherov out. You can't.
Yeah, just and now Sharma, okay, now Barkov, I don't know. Barkov is a top 10 player in the NHL, but there has to be some, deviation. Isaac Walmart says he throws Lafreniere in there for you, Johnny.
Yeah.
Guy who single-handedly brought the Rangers rebuild down. Cooch. That's Cooch disrespect.
Dude, going back to the last Start of 23-24, Kucherov leads the league in points.
Yeah, he's in that. That's a complete miss by me. So, like, don't get angry.
Brian Boyle would kill you right now if he was
forget. That was just a forgetful comment. That's all. Cooch he's there. There's no doubt. So let's call it. Is that the big six though, Johnny? Like, are those the best six players in the National Hockey League?
Leon,
I wouldn't. I'd say I would have Leon on the outside of those six players.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the next guy. And then you have him, and you have
Kaprizov,
and you have, you
Pasta.
Talking, yeah, but like again, you have to draw a line somewhere.
I know
everyone can't be, and you have Eichel, you have Matthews. I know Matthews isn't necessarily playing at that level right now, but still, like you have to be able to draw a line somewhere. I'm aware Leon had 5 points last night. I get it. Like no doubt. No doubt. But I don't know. Like I wouldn't put him there.
Tutty T, he had a funny comment. Dallas just getting slept on. We mentioned Dallas in our pre-show, how they won 10 games in a row. But like, who'd they beat the other night? The Flames 6-1, or they beat the Flames last night, maybe 6-1. Vancouver the night before. Like, just like Dallas, we all know how good they are, and they're becoming maybe the like Hurricanes, where like we just know how good they are, and we don't like need to talk about it. I don't know if that's how you feel, Colby, but the Stars have won 10 games in a row, and I honestly just like haven't watched because like I just know they're good. Like it's not exciting to me, I guess, in a sense. Rantanen's been out
for a while now. He's out for a while, right? 2-3 weeks, they said, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I just don't know. Like for whatever reason, I'm not like turning on Dallas Stars games late at night. And I think like Minnesota has been more exciting to watch. Colorado is more exciting to watch. Anaheim is more exciting to watch. San Jose is more exciting to watch for me. I don't know. There's something about the Stars that I feel like is just missing, but I respect how good they are and what they're doing. Like Dallas, to me, I was asked this question on Sportsnet Radio yesterday. If one team needs to be desperate this week, I think it's the Dallas Stars. They've been to, 3 straight conference finals. They are one of the best teams in the league. They are in the toughest division in the league, and they have Tyler Sane's money now freed up. They got to do something with that.
And they should. And who, if the playoffs started today, are they the 2-3 matchup? Or are they the 1? Yeah, I mean,
they're 2-3.
You're playing Minnesota. I mean,
and then Colorado probably. So
it's hard to see Dallas getting through those 2 rounds. Like I don't know, but and there's a lot of, everybody's hitting me with the Barkov stuff. Listen, Barkov's not playing this year. A little bit harder to discuss that about him, but he's a top 10 player in the NHL. I mean, I would definitely have him in the top 10, but if you gave me a chance to draft a team and you could pick any players like Barkov, I would pick all 6 of those guys mentioned before I would pick Barkov. And I know Barkov has won 2 cups. I get that. He's got how many Selkies now, Johnny? I'm not really sure, but I to be honest, like he wouldn't be one of my first 6 picks. Those other players would be, and then Barkov maybe would be 7, but he wouldn't be one of my first 6. Like they're all the best players in the NHL, but there can be varying degrees. A lot of it's personal preference, but it's not because I don't think Barkov is a great player. He is. It's different. It's just different. And that's how I feel here, Johnny. And that's my opinion. And listen, it's not a fact. It's just my opinion, right?
And I'm not
saying it's fact.
Yeah, and again, I'll address Tutty T also again. Like, he said, don't know much, but I know this. It's almost impossible for you guys to watch full games of all these teams. It is impossible. We're watching as much hockey as we can, but you're flipping through. You can't like there are some games where we're gonna watch depending on.
Yeah, I'm not a flipper though. You know that. I usually sit with a game, and then in between periods is when I look at some of the other games. But I usually pick 2 games a night, Tutty, an early game and then a late game. And the late game, I usually only get through 2 periods, but I don't like to flip. Like at a commercial break, I don't go looking for another game. And the reason for that is then I miss the first minute or 2 back, from the game that I was watching. Like the way my brain works is like, I would prefer to watch the game in its entirety. And then the next morning, we're up early, and I usually go to Instat or I go to one of our the video
Sport Logic too.
And I'll look at all of the special team shifts for a team, or I'll say, you know what? I know we're going to talk about Celebrini today. I'm just going to watch all of Celebrini's shifts on Instat from last night, or I'm going to watch all of the Edmonton Oilers offensive zone entries, and I can literally just put that into Instat. It will queue that up for me, all their entries. So, that's kind of how at least I do that kind of stuff, but I'm not a game flipper. I usually stick to 2 games a night, which means I get to see 4 teams generally play anywhere between like 4, like anywhere from like 4 to 5 periods a night between the 2 games. And that's how I like to take it in. I don't like going game to game on all the 7 p.m. games. My brain just, I feel like I don't have a good handle on the little things that I'm looking for.
I will say Sportlogic too. I know you're more Instat, Colby. Sportlogic has, to me, it's the best platform. They have all these different, categories of offense, defense, rush chances.
Is Sportlogic video or just statistics?
So they have video too. So they have video for the grade A chances, grade B chances, grade C chances. I can watch. So let's say scoring chances are 26 to 15 in a game. I can go watch all 15 chances for the one team and then all 26 chances for the other team. And then you kind of get a feel for what that game is like based on the chances. If, the team with 26 chances is, got 7 odd man rushes and whatnot, it's the other team that's like, holy shit, they were horrible last night. It's just like we try to watch again and honestly, a big part of it is our chat, the people that come in every day. We know there are like Jenna Henderson is watching more Seattle Kraken games than I am. So if Jenna has an opinion about the Kraken, I'm actually going to trust her more than my own because I know she's dialed in.
We know Carolina. We have a lot of Carolina people in the chat every day. Look, the people that are loud about their teams in our chat, I mean,
we trust.
We got the Colonel in here. We know he's a Detroit guy. Tutty,
Colonel.
I'm pretty sure Tutty's a Flyer. But obviously has his pulse on the league, and then we have our Rangers crew in here. So
Jeremiah Caps.
The markets we don't have a lot of in here. We don't have a big Bruins market in here. And I think one of the reasons for that is like, listen, Billy and Razor do such a good job with their show in the morning
brew.
I just feel like people that are Bruins fans are dialed on that show. I mean, we get G in here. He's a Bruins guy, but I feel like Neil's a New England guy, so he's probably pretty dialed on the Bees. But we kind of know what our fan bases are in here, and we kind of try to stick to those, Johnny. So today went fast. That was a very fast hour. Today. I'm surprised it's honestly already been an hour, Johnny. How did your bet do last night?
We had Buffalo Sabres money line and took them again in regulation too. Also, I don't know if people, I guess there was nothing posted yet, but I did play in that Rod Chaubert Memorial game last night. I was on the ice with like Adam Graves, Brandon Pruss. Those were the guys I was out there with the most. Colton Orr, Brian Mullen on the other side, Stefan Matteau on the other side, Booney Evis on the other side. It was a great game. Our chat will laugh, and I think Vic has the video of it. The first shift of the game, literally like 15 seconds in, I'm in the middle of your screen, number 6 and white. I get a puck, and I try to do like a little spin, and totally ate shit, wiped out. I may have gotten tripped, but I don't know at the time. And Brian Mullen, who coached me my senior year in high school with the New Jersey Rockets, he was beaking me from the bench like,
was the bench howling? Was the bench?
Yeah, it was literally 15 seconds into the event. Like I ate shit like that off the bat. So it was pretty funny, but an awesome night. Big thank you to the Ronald McDonald House, New York, for putting on a great event. Obviously, they do incredible work helping families with kids in hospitals and whatnot, putting those families up to help their kids treat their illnesses and whatnot. It was a great cause, great event, and I actually got to interview Adam Graves and Brian Leach, which, I'll have those like small clips out today. Those were like, minute and a half interviews, but I asked Brian Leach about FaceTiming Quinn Hughes before the gold medal game. And he confirmed that it was real. He said like, I actually missed the call originally. I didn't think it was real. And then I ended up calling them back, but it was really cool to talk to Leach and Adam Graves. Awesome guys.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for today, Johnny.
Well, bet 365. We'll go to our bet.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Our bet 365 bet of the night. I think I've hit like 4 or 5 in a row, honestly. But whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at bet 365. Download the app and get in on the game. I know we have someone in our chat who is angry about the betting, but hey, some of us like it, and that's how it is. But tonight we're going to go with the Red Wings on the money line, taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas has not been good at all since returning from the Olympic break. They're minus 135. Vegas playing on the second half of a back-to-back. They played in Buffalo last night, Detroit tonight. So hopefully our friend JVR can get a win for the Red Wings and they can keep rolling in the Atlantic Division.
Make sure you hit the like button today. Big audience, so we should have a ton of likes on this episode. Make sure you download the audio version of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you leave comments on the stream once it's done. If you're not somebody who watches YouTube live and you're not in the chat, but you want to be heard, or there's something you want us to talk about on tomorrow's show, you can always leave those comments on the YouTube stream when the show's done. Johnny, it sounds like you had something else you wanted to say.
Did we mention Randy for the Flames? I feel like we got to give Randy love for the Flames with his Flame fandom. Like, he's probably our only Flames fan in the chat. I don't know if we said Randy's name, so I just wanted to shout him out.
But Randy is definitely the most. Randy is like one of our hockey historians that we have. And the other comment, Zach wants one of those hats. So I don't know if Glenn is watching the show today or listening to the show today. We need one of the Sioux Falls Wiener Dogs hats for our pal Zach, the producer of The Sheet. And a recurring guest on our program to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that we'll see how much we're talking about. I saw some
Rangers Leafs tomorrow.
I saw some NBA reporter tweeting about Austin Matthews getting traded or whatever, and I just was like, this has to be parody. Yeah, he's like an NBA writer. I can't. If I try to say the guy's name, I'm gonna bomb it. But he's been an NBA writer for a long time, but I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm seriously not. I'm not even going to do it.
Okay, I didn't even see that.
That's all the time we have for today. Tomorrow, Thursday, will be the last Morning Cuppa Hockey for the week, but don't forget, Friday is the big trade deadline show for the Daily Faceoff. Everybody will be involved. Jeff, Tyler, we'll have Aaron Ward joining us. We'll have Carter Hutton, Johnny, and I. Will be with Tyler. It'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern. It'll go till almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll have David Peñota breaking things down for us. We'll have the guys from Puckpedia helping us with contracts. You'll have a little bit of everything. We'll be dipping around. We've got people out in Vancouver ready to talk about all the trades that they may or may not make. We will definitely have wall-to-wall coverage from the east to the west coast and all in between. So we will see if it's an exciting trade deadline. I still think, Johnny, we're going to see some big moves, and I do think there's going to be one or two players that get moved that absolutely nobody is expecting. I still think that's going to happen. It always does. That's going to mess around, and that's going to move around money and spots, and then all of a sudden something someone thought wouldn't happen is then going to happen as a byproduct of that. So I still think we'll have some fireworks, so make sure you're with us on Friday all day, 11 to 4 on the Daily Faceoff. Johnny and I will be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow for our last Morning Cuppa Hockey of the week. It's been a great week from a numbers perspective, so we love you guys and we appreciate you. And with that, we will see everybody at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the Sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.